Everybody hates me until they need me. What professions are examples of this?
Story 1. Plastic surgeons. My uncle is a plastic surgeon and he does only reconstructive stuff, fixing burn victims' faces and stuff like that. But when people ask him what kind of doctor he is and he says plastic surgeon, they usually kind of scoff. It is often forgotten, but plastic and cosmetic surgery got a big start in the aftermath of World War I. There were plenty of vets with horrible disfigurements that were met with horror and revulsion returning to civilian life. The operations they took to repair, replace lost jaws, eyes, bones, etc. were attempts to let these vets be able to enjoy some normalcy in society. Yeah, there are before and after pictures out there of early plastic surgeries, and it's genuinely amazing to see what the pioneers of that discipline were actually capable of, considering the tools that they had to work with and the fact that they were just kind of figuring it out as they went along. I've had a few moles removed by various dermatologists, huge unsightly scars, which is fine because they were on my arm and torso, places where no one sees, doesn't matter what they look like. But I also had this big one right on my forehead, and I wanted to get rid of it just because of how unsightly it was. I went to a plastic surgeon, cost me $800. There's absolutely nothing there, nothing. I guess maybe if I wrinkle my forehead you can see a tiny line there, but you wouldn't even notice it. I was very pleased. Note, yes, I had checked my dermatologist before I got it removed. He said it wasn't a mole to worry about and removing it would just be cosmetic. Amen. My wife was hit by a drunk driver riding her bike when she was 14. They had to completely rebuild her face. She said that it took her years to recognize herself in the mirror. She only has a couple of small scars. I can only see one. At 58, she looks very much like that 18-year-old I fell in love with in college. We dated in college, went our separate ways, reconnected in 2017, married 2 years ago. Without the surgeries, she would have been horribly disfigured and she would have hidden away from the world. With the reconstruction, she went to college, served in the Peace Corps, and had a great career. Plus, it is hard to let someone love you when you don't love yourself. Thanks to her plastic surgeons. Edit. Hit return too soon. My friend, who is a trauma surgeon, always jumps to the defense of cosmetic plastic surgeons with a very legit argument. The way people look can be extremely important to those people's mental health and their everyday life in general, especially women. What these surgeons do can prevent depression, self-termination tendencies, various other psychiatric and psychological issues, can save marriages and boost confidence in a workplace, etc. These surgeries can literally improve the quality of people's lives, superficial or not, based on how many are done in countries all over the world that don't necessarily share similar cultures. It is very important to a lot of people. I agree. I'm not into cosmetic surgery at all, to each their own, but I did see a doc that specializes in reconstructive surgery after being in a really bad accident that left a very noticeable scar over more than a quarter of my face. I ended up not having any procedures done, but it did make me realize plastic surgery isn't all about getting lip injections or breast augmentation. It can often be about making someone look and feel normal again so they can function in society without trauma and anxiety. Docs like your uncle rock. Yeah, while I'm certain that there are certainly plastic surgeons out there who are trying to take advantage of people's insecurities, and there are people out there who maybe abuse plastic surgery and kind of abuse their bodies a little bit in the process, but for the most part, I'm very supportive of it. For a lot of these people who are injured, it's wonderful to be able to get to, feel a little normal and get rid of some of those scars and everything. And for people who just want to, feel better about their body, that's not a bad thing. We all do different things to some extent, getting a new haircut, buying clothes that makes us look good, and sometimes being able to change your body to better suit how you want it to be and give yourself confidence. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that it requires some very careful thought in making sure that you're not just feeling pressured by society to do it, and I'm sure there's a lot more that goes into it that, a therapist and a doctor, a plastic surgeon should go over with you before you make those decisions. But yeah, I'm generally in support.
Story 2. The U.S. Coast Guard for fishermen and boaters. Usually there's a pretty good working relationship between them, but some hate the Coast Guard for the various inspections they do. But the USCG is also the ones who will come out there in a storm to rescue them. Today I learned people hate the Coast Guard. They're like the military police, and you don't have rights on the water like you do on land with normal police. They're generally good and responsible, but I also understand why people have negative feelings towards them. I'm not from the USA. Could you elaborate, please? The U.S. Constitution, well, the Fourth Amendment to it, protects Americans or any person in the United States against unreasonable search. It's why police have to obtain a warrant before entering your house. The exception to this is the Coast Guard and searching your boat. The U.S. Coast Guard can search any boat in U.S. waters and any U.S.-flagged vessel anywhere in the world at any time they please for any reason. All that said, I've had nothing but pleasant encounters with the Coast Guard, though I'm Canadian and my boat flies a Canadian flag. I'm always a contentious/safety-oriented boater, so never have issues. U.S. Coast Guard are 100% a real branch of the military, and anyone who says otherwise hadn't seen an offshore rescue performance. Those guys are the real deal. Edit. Allegiance to DHS instead of DoD is irrelevant. It's a 20-year argument for a 240-year organization. By that logic, the U.S. Coast Guard was military until 20 years ago. Edit 2. And the U.S. Coast Guard is officially defined as military under Title 10 and Title 14. Suck on it, losers! Even if I'm wrong about prior United States Coast Guard allegiances, U.S. Code Title 10 defines the United States Coast Guard as military, and Title 14 defines U.S. Coast Guard as military at all times. You are either loyal to the code or you are not. I'm a merchant marine based out of the U.S., and the Coast Guard is by far the most strenuous with their inspections compared to the rest of the world. Sometimes you'll get a-holes that will get you technicalities. I know it's in the name of safety and it's for good reason, but for example, when you get fined for not having the proper sticker that's supposed to be a 7 by 7 inches when yours is only 6 by 6 inches, next to where your life jackets are stowed even when they are correctly and clearly labeled, no wonder why they have that pain-in-the-butt reputation they do. They want to see everything is correct according to the law, even though it necessarily wouldn't save a life. It can be too much sometimes, but I get the reason for it. I ship out to Europe and the Middle East, and the U.S. Coast Guard is the most nail-biting compared to any other country. They are notoriously harder on foreign ships compared to U.S. ships. Of course, it depends on the actual people inspecting, too. Some, probably most Coast Guard inspectors wouldn't give a crap about something like the example I mentioned above, but you never know what kind of inspector you're going to get. We have a joke that Coast Guard inspectors graduated at the bottom of their class and ended up stuck doing inspections, which is why they're all a-holes. But the real good ones are out there leading the search and rescue missions. There's probably not much truth to it, though, and it's just a made-up stereotype that sailors have made up. Haha. Story 3. Lawyers and mechanics. You want to have a good one for each, but you never want to have to call either of them. Finding a good mechanic will 99% of the time save you the most money out of most of these answers. Finding one that's skilled but doesn't rip you off is an effing godsend. I didn't realize this until I married someone whose father is a mechanic. The amount of BS I no longer deal with is unbelievable. If you find a good mechanic, don't pee them off nickel and diming them. My friends think I'm crazy for driving to a mechanic that's 45 minutes away, but this shop has only done me good. Brought my car in for a suspected problem, they found no issue, never charged me. Another time, the car was having major issues. After a day at the shop, the mechanic called me and straight up told me the $3,000 it would cost to repair the car would be better off on a down payment instead of repairs that may or may not fix the issue. I like that they pay their staff by the hour, too. Brought my car in for a suspected problem, they found no issues, never charged me. Oh my god, this comment brought to mind something that happened a few years ago. I thought the car was leaking a weird color antifreeze. It was deer pee on the snowy driveway. Thankfully, the car guy told us nothing was wrong with the car, lol. Had a problem with my car dying once in a city an hour from home, had it towed to the closest place I could find. It started up and the guy couldn't find anything wrong with it. Found no issues. Didn't charge me. He has it most of the day. Said maybe bad gas or moisture in my gas tank. Started to die on the way home at night. Dropped it off to my regular guy. He couldn't tell what was wrong with it but knew something wasn't right. Told me he could start throwing parts at it but couldn't guarantee they'd help. Suggested bringing it to the dealer. Again, don't charge me. Ended up needing a new transmission that Nissan actually replaced out of warranty at no charge. F their CVTs, but yeah, honest mechanics are great.
I think I once heard, I think it was an uncle of mine once said, there are two things in this life that you hang on to for dear life: the person you fall in love with and a good mechanic. And it's true. I feel very fortunate that for most of my mechanical needs, my brother is knowledgeable enough and can help me out. And in return, I have nothing of value to offer him. I don't have any skill sets aside from what you're seeing here, so that's it. Oh, God.
Story 4. When I was a janitor, I got a lot of hate for knocking out my 8-hour day in 4 individual hour-long chunks of effort. I was always available for spills and got extra work done every day, but spent another 4 hours basically chilling, and management not once got on my case. The other employees despised this until a customer's colostomy bag somehow ruptured in the bathroom. From that day forward, none of them gave an F if I was just hanging out on my phone. Proper time management. If everything is in order, you are on call. Cleaning is a form of maintenance, and maintenance needs to be on a schedule to get it all done. Salute to you. I appreciate janitors. Literally this. People need to check themselves. Cleaning up a ruptured colostomy bag warrants 4 hours off, though. You're a hero, mate. I have so much respect for janitors, etc. They keep my old apartment building spotless, and we're super friendly. Yeah, that's an underappreciated job, and it's also not a bad gig aside from the occasional exploded colostomy bag. If you compare it to the stress of other jobs like fast food or retail, being a janitor probably seems like a relaxing paradise. Just quietly mop the floor and listen to music or an audiobook. You probably could do a daily cleaning checklist. If an emergency cleaning situation happens, the people who call you probably think you're a hero. I used to work in infection control in a hospital. People don't realize the standards and regulations that janitorial staff, particularly in hospitals, have to maintain throughout their day. It's a lot of work, and none of it is glamorous, but we literally couldn't function without you. Yeah, I was in emergency last year with my daughter. Here I was sitting there with her on my lap. I start hearing water pouring. I look around and the guy next to me is peeing himself big time. Lord knows what sad things were happening to him. I felt bad for him, but got away from that giant pee puddle real fast. The janitor was there in seconds. He even helped the guy get someone to help out his situation. He cleaned it so fast and well it smelled like lemons when he left. Bless him. Story 5. Lawyers, LOL. Edit. Might delete this comment in a bit. Not used to getting 100 notifications a minute, LOL. Appreciate the engagement, though. This is the profession I first heard the phrase about, but I've quickly learned there are plenty of others. Yeah, they're kind of the classic example, and I find most people who crap on lawyers just don't fully understand what it is they do and what their purpose is. They think it's all getting bona fide criminals off scot-free, but it's a lot more gray than that. Even when your client is guilty of something, there's always going to be the question of, does the punishment match the crime? A lawyer's job is always to get a fair judgment based on prior cases and the language of the law. Yeah, there is corruption, but that's usually not on the lawyer's part. It's usually coming from higher up in the court. I really do think that the majority of the hate lawyers get is because of how they're portrayed in media, especially shows about cops. Whether they're drama or comedy, most of the time lawyers are portrayed as an enemy or obstacle to the heroes, and it's villain characters that'll say, "I'm not talking without my lawyer present," or "my lawyer will have something to say about this." I'm a paralegal for an attorney who doesn't even deal in the really contentious stuff like family law or litigation. We mainly do real estate deals and estate planning. But you wouldn't believe the amount of people who call who just go on the offensive the minute I answer the phone. How we're going to overcharge them, how they know exactly the work they need done, they usually don't, how they want a document drawn up but in plain English. Generally, we tell those clients politely to seek services elsewhere because no matter how well we do our job, something is going to be an issue.
Yeah, this is another one of those cases where there are definitely sleazy lawyers out there, for sure, but there's sleazy pretty much everything. Every profession has some sleazy bad people in it. But yeah, a lot of lawyers, they're specialized and they're helping in the ways that these people have said. So don't be too quick to jump down, getting all down on lawyers. They're not all bad.
Story 6. IT. Not the clown. Yep, you get everything in order and pretty much humming along. They say, "What are we paying you for if you're just sitting there?" crap goes haywire, they say, "What are we paying you for if you can't keep the stuff from breaking?" I tell people that what you want is to see IT people sitting around doing nothing. When you see them scramble, then worry. Pretty much, they're there to set things up and keep them running smoothly so crap doesn't hit the fan, and to sort things out when it inevitably does anyway. The higher the ratio of them doing nothing to them working hectically, the better they are. I worked with a programmer that explained his position to me. He was on a call about a critical app that went down. He was super calm the whole time while the managers were all freaking out. They asked him how long it would take him to come up with a fix. He pretended to do the math in his head and said maybe 2 weeks. Everyone thanked him, and the call ended. He sat back and put his feet on his desk. I asked him, "Isn't that fixed urgently?" He says, "Yes, which is why I told them months ago we were going to need it, but they took all our resources and had us focus on other things. I already made this fix on my own time because I was worried about this, but they can wait 2 weeks. If I give it to them now, they won't have learned anything."
Well, now because of the original poster, the only thing I could think through reading this entire thing was Pennywise the Clown doing, tech support for a company where it's just like, "Hey, Pennywise, we noticed that, the emails are going really slow and everything."
"Well, why don't you just come down to my office? Maybe we can get the emails working better. Come on, Georgie."
"No, I'm not coming down there again, Pennywise. Just get it to work. Get it to work."
"Yeah, fine."
Story 7. Lawyer here. The expectation that because you are a lawyer, you know everything about every law everywhere. In reality, most lawyers are highly specialized. I thought you guys all just put on a nice suit, sat back in your chair, and answered any question with, "It depends." Effing this. The amount of times I hear, "But you're a lawyer." Yeah, I do software sales negotiations and privacy stuff. I don't know how to get you out of your DUI, and you shouldn't have been drinking and driving in the first place. The further you go in any field of study, the more niche and specialized your knowledge becomes. Wife was a neuroscientist at a major university investigating some blood-brain barrier thing when we first met. My best friend's girlfriend was also a neuroscientist at the time at a different university. She was studying something about addiction, I think. To the layman, me, they sounded like they would know a lot about each other's field of study. They did not. It's really no different than any other profession. If there were 100 books that described 99% of mechanical engineering, I know 3 to 4. I use 1 to 2. I can teach 1 chapter in 1 book, and I could write 1 section of 1 chapter. And I'm a successful engineer. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.